right. Today we're with Adam Schoen, and who's with the partner with Brown Rudnick. And we want to find out about how he got into patent law and the implications for technologists and the importance of using lawyers, I guess. We want to find out all about that. So we have a lot of members who are startups and trying new things. Why do we need a lawyer?
I appreciate that, Lauren. Thanks for the time today. I'm glad we're talking. As with everything, the world's complicated. And while it's important to know something about every aspect of what you're doing in your business, at the end of the day, there are reasons that people specialize in certain areas. And if you're looking to build foundational value in your company, at some point you're going to interact with one or more lawyers, and it just depends on where. The short answer is it's generally less expensive to get the advice and do it right the first time than to find out when you're in a high leverage situation that something needs to be fixed. Because like almost everything in life, it's more expensive to unwind a mistake and then do it the correct way, as opposed to knowing at the front end what needs to be done and just sequencing it correctly.
I know I'm kind of smiling because, God, your answer's so right on. I mean, I was trying to get my 501c3, but I thought I could do it all by myself. And what a mess without help, let me tell you. And I ended up paying a lot more money in the end and trying to figure this out because dealing with the IRS was a big pain in the butt. And I understand. So when does a startup need to have a lawyer? Do they need one right away?
I think it's important to start the conversation very early on. You may choose not to engage right away. And I think the important aspect of this is finding the lawyer that's the right fit for you. And I mean that in a few ways. They should be a lawyer that works in an emerging company space because, like everything else, they understand their clientele and usually have a cost structure, which is the most important thing for most emerging companies, that is suitable for working with emerging companies. So they'll have variable ways in which they can work the economics so that they can afford that lawyer. Additionally, then you have someone that grows with the company, or at least they'll understand what you're doing, and an advisor. You also want someone that is the right personality fit. And that usually takes talking to a lot of different people. I mean, it's not easy to find the right match for you. And it's on a bunch of different considerations.
It's funny that you said that because through just my progress getting my 501c3 and, becoming a nonprofit and everything, I found all those hurdles. So someone has an idea for an app. Someone has an idea for a technology. Someone's got a cool neurotech thing. When do they talk to someone? What's the right method? What's the right timeline?
If we're talking from the patent side and technology,
right. Exactly.
Years definitely better because there are a lot of rules that can trip you up around a disclosure event. So disclosing your technology or using your technology publicly could prevent you from getting a patent. You usually only know the nuances of that if you talk to an attorney who's done this before and can help you understand that and put the right protections in place. Again, it's early interaction will almost always lead to the best result. And again, if you're dealing with emerging company lawyers, they're not going to charge you for every phone call. And I think that's important for our listening audience to know. It's not like the TV shows. It's not Breaking Bad. We're not all out there to just get every dollar the second the phone rings. These are relationships, especially when you talk about on the company side, that grow over time. You want to know that you're doing the right thing because in technology and in life sciences, the intellectual property is placed at a premium as compared to maybe some other industries. It has to be done well. It has to be done right. It has to be done in a cohesive manner with strategy. Most companies I talk to, I will actually end up having a conversation about their invention and technology before they've even formed the company. And we talk through those pieces. Now, we may not file right away, but they at least then have an understanding of what it is they should be thinking about so they know when the right time is. And so from the intellectual property side, after that first conversation, it could be 6 months to a year before we actually end up doing something formally together around a filing. You'll probably get a very different answer if you speak to a corporate attorney, because their considerations are, when do you form the company versus when does the company have value? And so they will give you a different answer, more based on tax consequences than based on disclosure of the technology. And these are the different things we all consider. But with the usual theme is, better to know in advance than to find out the wrong way.
When did you know you wanted to be a lawyer?
So my path was interesting. So I was a biology major at Cornell, and
Oh, wow. That's a little different.
a little different, and thought, well, what do biology majors do? They either go on to medical school. I didn't love blood. So you got to go work in biotech. And I was a bench chemist for about 5 years. And it took me about year 3 before I realized what I love about science is the intellectual and the business side. I did not love being at a lab bench. I didn't like the lab coat and the gloves and designing experiments, but I loved hearing about new inventions and how they were going to go on and interact in the world, and how to make a company around that, and how to build value and drive to ultimately something that's going to be better for the world. I wasn't sure how to pursue that. I was just very lucky. I had a friend who had graduated a year before me in law school, and he was a patent lawyer at Philips Healthcare at the time. And he said, what you're talking about sounds a lot like patent law. You should take a look at it. And it clicked immediately. So I went back to law school knowing I was going to be a patent lawyer. Like, that was my plan going in.
And do you feel like you've helped people through this? Or, I mean, what is the feeling that you get? What is the reward? I mean, for instance, Disruptive Technologists organization, our mission is to help women, minorities, and disabled get into technology in any way we can help them for free. What is your mission?
My mission, and this is why I work on the transactional side, everything I see is someone solving a medical problem that has a patient population that's in dire need. Someone has found a better way to help someone with a disorder or a disease. I'm sure every one of us is touched by a family member that's had some health implication. And for me, what's exciting is I love seeing someone's new idea of how we could make the world a better place, and something that they've clearly been passionate about for a long time, to help them realize that vision and to see them get products to market or develop so that they can help patients. That to me is super exciting. And most of these people come along to become very close friends of mine. Our families become friends. Our children know each other. We vacation together, because company building in this space takes a long time. And so some of the clients I have are people I met over a decade ago, who are now at a very mature stage where they're in clinical trials or they're close to products on the market. And to me, that's so rewarding. Like, that's what gets me out of bed. The fact that the things I'm doing have a goal of helping people who there are no solutions yet, right? The only reason these companies are doing it is what exists today isn't getting the job done. Because if it did, you wouldn't need the new medicine. So there's people out there that need help, and people want to solve those problems. I like to be someone who can help those people along so that they can get the real solution to market.
You recently were at one of our Disruptive Technologist events at Microsoft, and it was about neurotech. And hearing what I'm hearing now, there's a lot of implications. What does a lawyer do that, let's say, a startup founder can't do on their own?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that a lawyer sometimes get access to that others don't necessarily do is government groups, lobbying groups, people that have an opportunity to maybe more directly influence policy in a day-to-day because of the position we're in, as well as our organizations or the commitments that our firms have made, whether it's pro bono or otherwise. But I think it allows us then to get an understanding of at least where regulators view the world going, which is something we can then feed back to our clients, which helps them a lot. I mean, while patent law is complicated, it's probably less complicated than some of the regulatory aspects around a lot of the products we create. And, when I think about the fact that we talked about ChatGPT a lot.
Right. And why did that event steer towards that, just in particular?
Yeah, I think it has a huge implication for the world about that next step in AI that a lot of us as humans think about and say, as we say in many areas, have we properly considered the ethical implications of what we're doing versus can we do it? And not coincidentally, I've had conversations now with 2 new startups that have talked about authentication in the AI digital world. How do we reliably authenticate when it should be a human generating a response versus an AI-based approach? And so we're moving.
Why does it matter?
Well, it matters in the context of if it's academics. I mean, plagiarism has always been an aspect, right? If it's day-to-day email communication, no. But when you get into attributed credit, and is it really yours? Is it your idea? Is it your thoughts? Authenticity in the world matters. We are nothing if we're not authentic.
Why? I mean, why can't AI be authentic?
I think AI can be authentic in the context if it's represented as AI. So if you were to turn in your college thesis and say, I didn't write this, professor, but I had inputs and I had it written by a program. Okay, the school may not like that, but authentic to me, within that word is honest. So there may be authenticity in AI, but as used by humans, we may not be using it in an authentic way if we are using it to represent self without informing others of self.
All these new things that you're dealing with, patents and things, what are the implications? I mean, what could go wrong if we go ahead and do stuff without actually thinking about it, like without the moral thing? How would we do that? What would happen?
Well, in many ways, you're seeing it play out today in a couple areas. I think one of the areas that's interesting, and there'll be a Supreme Court decision that comes down this June on this, which relates to what is the scope of exclusivity that one person or one company should control? Stated another way, how do we view monopolies in our country and our world? The Constitution is one of the few places where there's an express grant of an opportunity of a monopoly. I mean, patent law is actually written into the Constitution. The only place it shall be to Congress to promulgate rules around the protection and the development of the arts and sciences. That is from our original founding document. But now what we're talking about is what we did for patents used to be more corresponding, right? I made an invention, I got a patent on that invention. People get more creative. The opportunity for research is bigger. Now people get patents that potentially cover entire fields. Is that fair to society? Is that good for society? Right? The ability of people to write and push the edges of how much protection they should get moves much faster than the laws around, do we agree with the scope of that protection? And is that fair to society?
So protection is an important part of your job.
Protection is an important part of my job, especially in technology and life sciences, because it is generally the value driver for an investment before a product exists, because it takes a while to develop many of these products. Right. We are trying to get the best protection we can for our company in a competitive business space, but we're trying to protect the differences of what they have done versus what others have done.
But how do you protect something when it's the whole world that you have to deal with? Well, internationally, how do you deal with that?
And this is why companies need help raising money and why they need to be able to partner with bigger companies. The short answer is worldwide protection is expensive. Yeah. Most companies don't need worldwide protection to be very successful. Their protection is based on their valuable markets. It has to be done thoughtfully so the money is saved. But ultimately, you are trying to create a value and a vision for which you can partner with maybe a more established company to see it through to the end. I mean, at the end of the day, most companies have an exit transaction that's associated with a merger or an acquisition in a very successful way and may go on as an independent entity, right? We see it all the time. Company X, which is a subsidiary of a larger company. they're still doing what they're doing. They're now backed by someone who has worldwide distribution and the ability to get the worldwide protection that a company may want or need. I will say most of our companies only choose some very specific areas in which they want protection because it has real direct commercial value.
You've been at Brown and Rudnick for what, 13 years now? Do you have any cases that would be particularly interesting to people who are doing startups right now that might want to call you?
Yeah, I mean, we've got, it's funny, you get calls every day from people. What I would say is really promising is we have a company that I have been with since the very beginning, before they were formed. They are a California company that was making an investment. They want to develop drugs related to neurological disorders. They were doing the deal with a company in Germany with investors throughout the world. It took 8 months to get the deal done and get the company done. 4 years later, multiple different drugs. Today, they just announced that they have put their first dose in patients for treating.
Wow.
And that started with an individual's idea over 4 years ago, and
Wow.
found the right person to partner with. And so we were there before the company was even formed, and we've been with them ever since.
So basically, if you're a startup, you have to be like 100% sure about yourself and about your company before they go to you. I mean, the people who went to you for that had to have been assured that they were going to do something.
The people who come to us have decided that they are going to be an entrepreneur and that they have a specific value proposition.
So a lot of it's confidence.
Yes.
For startup founders, confidence.
That's a great way to summarize it. You have to believe, no one will believe more in your invention than you. Because if you don't believe it, you're never going to get anyone else to buy into it at the dollars you're usually asking people for.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much. We're happy to have you on our quick interview, and we'll get back to you in another 6 months and see where you're at with your stuff.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you for the time today,
Thank
Lauren.
you so much. Thanks for being part of our thing. Bye-bye.